Man, there's something magical about revisiting legendary single-player games. It's not just about nostalgia, but about rediscovering what made those experiences unforgettable from the very beginning. These aren't just games you play, they literally hook you in a different way. Today, we're diving into 15 single-player masterpieces that deserve another playthrough this year. So, let's get started. 1. Batman Arkham Asylum. Let's kick things off with a game that literally changed the way I look at superheroes. Batman Arkham Asylum. I remember the first time I walked through those gothic gates into the asylum. The atmosphere was so thick you could cut it with a batarang. Even in 2026, the free-flow combat feels incredibly snappy. There's this rhythm to it that modern games still try to copy, but they rarely get it this right. What I love about Asylum specifically is how contained it is. It's not a bloated open world. It's a Metroidvania where every corner of the island feels handcrafted, dirty, and dangerous. You aren't just a guy in a suit, you're the Predator. The Joker is, in my humble opinion, at his absolute peak here. Mark Hamill's voice acting is just chilling and perfectly balances humor with pure malice. I still get goosebumps during the Scarecrow sequences where the game literally messes with your head and breaks the fourth wall. It's that psychological edge that keeps it so addictive even after multiple playthroughs. You really feel like the world's greatest detective, scanning for clues and stalking thugs from the shadows until they start panicking. If you haven't replayed this lately, do it. The way the cape moves and the way the gargoyles loom over the halls, it's just pure dark perfection that makes you feel like the night itself. It's a tight 10-hour ride that leaves zero room for boredom and still puts modern superhero games to shame. 2. Prototype. Now, if you want a total 180-degree turn into pure, unadulterated power fantasy, we have to talk about Prototype. This game is absolute insanity and feels like a fever dream. Playing as Alex Mercer is like being the villain of your own action movie. And let's be real, sometimes it's fun to be the bad guy. I remember the first time I ran straight up the side of a skyscraper in Manhattan and then elbow dropped a tank from the stratosphere. It was the most video game moment I'd ever experienced. The way Alex consumes people to gain their memories and appearance is still such a cool, dark mechanic that I'm honestly surprised more games haven't stolen it for a stealth action hybrid. Sure, the graphics might look a bit early PS3 era by today's standards, but the sheer chaos on screen is still more fun than most AAA titles today. It's all about that momentum. Once you start sprinting, nothing can stop you. You're flipping over cars, morphing your arms into giant blades, and basically treating the city like a giant parkour gym of flesh and steel. The story is a bit of a conspiracy thriller mess, but you're not here for Shakespeare. You're here to be an apex predator at the top of the food chain. It's one of those games where you say, I'll just play for 20 minutes, and then 2 hours later you've accidentally leveled half of Times Square and forgotten why you started playing in the first place. It's raw, it's edgy, and it's a type of chaos we just don't see anymore. Number 3. Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Okay, let's set sail for the horizon. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is, for me, the point where the series peaked in terms of pure, unscripted joy. I know the hardcore fans say it's not a real assassin game, and honestly, I don't care. Edward Kenway is easily the most relatable protagonist because he's not driven by some ancient, boring creed at first. He just wants to get paid, drink rum, and be free. The transition from walking through a vibrant Havana market to jumping on your ship, the Jackdaw, and sailing straight into a massive Caribbean storm is still seamless and gorgeous. The ship combat is the real crack here that keeps me coming back every single year. Hearing your crew sing sea shanties while you're hunting down a legendary Spanish galleon is a vibe that Skull and Bones couldn't even dream of touching. I've spent literal days just boarding ships, recruiting crew members, and upgrading my cannons to the max. The world feels so bright, alive, and full of mystery. And the ending, man, if you didn't tear up a little bit at the parting glass scene, you might want to check your pulse. It's a pirate fantasy that just happens to have hidden blades, and in 2026, it still feels like the ultimate summer vacation for any gamer. It's addictive because it gives you that true sense of freedom that modern open worlds often suffocate with too many map icons and checklists. Number 4, Ghost Recon Wildlands. Rounding out our first batch is Ghost Recon Wildlands. While some people prefer the sequels, playing this solo with your AI squad is a completely different, almost meditative experience. You're a ghost in the machine, slowly dismantling a massive cartel brick by brick. I love the choose-your-own-approach gameplay, where the game actually respects your time and creativity. If I want to spend 40 minutes crawling through a coca field at night just to place one perfect C4 charge on a cartel radio tower without being seen, I can. There's no hand-holding or forced sequences. Bolivia is stunningly beautiful. The diversity of the biomes, from the salt flats of Unani to the dense, humid jungles, is just incredible to look at even now. The tactical loop is what keeps me coming back. Sync marking enemies for your AI teammates to take out simultaneously makes you feel like a master strategist in a way very few games manage. I'll admit, the story is pretty standard American heroes versus cartel, and the helicopter physics can be a bit bouncy at times, but the sheer freedom is unmatched. Every time I boot it up, I find a new way to infiltrate a base, maybe a stealthy base jump from a mountain this time. It's a giant tactical sandbox that trusts the player to be smart, and that's why it's so hard to put the controller down once you start your mission. Number 5, God of War 3. If you want to talk about a game that defines the word epic, God of War 3 is the undisputed king. I remember the opening sequence on the back of Gaia. The scale of it was so massive, it felt like my TV couldn't even handle it. Even in 2026, the sheer brutality of Kratos is unmatched. This isn't the dad Kratos we see in the Norse games. This is a man who is pure, concentrated rage, and there's something incredibly cathartic about that. The combat is like a violent ballet, swinging the blades of exile into hordes of enemies, while the screen fills with blood and elemental effects. It's fast, it's fluid, and every hit feels like it has the weight of a mountain behind it. The boss fights in this game, absolute insanity. Tearing the head off Helios, or the showdown with Poseidon, these moments are burned into my brain. The sense of scale, where Kratos is just a tiny speck compared to the titans climbing Mount Olympus, still humbles modern games that try to do big bosses. I love the fixed camera angles because they allow the developers to frame every shot like a Renaissance painting of a massacre. Sure, Kratos is a bit of a one-note character here compared to his later growth, but that's the point. It's a tragedy, a spectacle, and a masterclass in action design. Every time I replay it, I'm just floored by how much polish and cinematic flair Sony Santa Monica packed into this disc. It's a relentless, breathless ride from start to finish. Six, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Next up is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I honestly feel like people don't give this entry enough credit. While the first two in the reboot trilogy were great, Shadow is where Lara Croft finally becomes the Tomb Raider. The atmosphere in the jungles of Peru is so thick you can almost feel the humidity. This game leans heavily into the shadow part. Lara is basically a jungle predator here. I love the stealth mechanics where you can cover yourself in mud to blend into the walls and take out Trinity soldiers one by one. It feels much more tactical and survival focused than your average third-person shooter. But the real reason I keep coming back is the tombs themselves. The puzzles in this game are actually challenging, and the scale of the ancient architecture is breathtaking. finding a hidden entrance behind a waterfall, and discovering a massive underground Mayan temple feels like a genuine Indiana Jones moment every single time. Lara's internal struggle with her own obsession is a dark, interesting path for the story, even if the side characters can be a bit forgettable. The graphics are still top tier, especially the lighting in the dense jumbo canopies and the underwater sections, which are actually terrifying. It's a game that respects exploration over mindless shooting, and that's why it feels so rewarding to 100% even years later.
Seven, Dragon Age Inquisition. Alright, let's talk about a game that I've easily put over 200 hours into. Dragon Age Inquisition. This is the ultimate comfort food RPG for me. There is something so incredibly addictive about building your Inquisition from the ground up. You start as a prisoner and end up as the most powerful person in Thedas, sitting on a throne and judging the fate of your enemies. The world is divided into these massive, beautiful zones like the Hinterlands or the Western Approach, and while it can be a bit fetch questy, the lore and the characters make every minute worth it. BioWare is at its best here when it comes to squad banter. The chemistry between characters like Varric, Dorian, and Iron Bull is what keeps the world alive. I'll be honest, the combat can feel a bit like an MMO light if you don't use the tactical camera, but once you start comboing elemental spells with your warrior's abilities, it gets really deep. And the dragons? The high dragon fights in this game are some of the best in gaming history. They are long, multi-stage endurance tests that require actual strategy. I love the war table mechanic too. It makes you feel like a true leader managing a global organization. It's a high fantasy epic that lets you lose yourself in its politics, its romance, and its magic. It's a massive time sink, but every time I hear that main theme in the menu, I'm ready to save the world all over again. 8. Mad Max. Finally, we have the most underrated gem of the last decade, Mad Max. This game came out the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5, so it got completely buried, and that is a crime. This is the best car combat game ever made, period. Building up the magnum opus, your custom wasteland car, is so satisfying. I remember the first time I used the harpoon to rip the wheel off a rival's car while driving 100 miles per hour through a sandstorm. I was hooked instantly. The car feels heavy, dangerous, and like a character of its own. The desert isn't just empty space, it's a beautiful orange-hued playground of scrap and iron. The hand-to-hand combat is very similar to the Arkham games, but way more brutal and dirty. Max isn't a superhero, he's a desperate survivor, and you feel every punch. But the real star is the atmosphere. The big nothing at the edge of the map and the massive storms that roll in, forcing you to find cover, create a sense of survival that is actually palpable. I'll admit, the story is pretty thin, and the clear out the camps loop can get repetitive if you do it all at once, but the core gameplay of driving and smashing is so polished that it doesn't matter. It captures the soul of the movies perfectly. If you want a game that feels like a heavy metal album cover come to life, this is it. It's a dusty, gasoline-soaked masterpiece that deserves your respect.
9. Metro 2033. If you want a game that makes you hold your breath in real life, Metro 2033 is the one. This is a survival horror mixed with a first-person shooter in the best way possible. You're trapped in the Moscow subway tunnels after the world has ended, and the atmosphere is so claustrophobic it's almost physical. I love the analog feel of the tech here. You have to manually pump your flashlight to keep it bright, and you're constantly checking your watch to see how much air is left in your gas mask filter. It creates this constant low-level anxiety that makes every step feel earned. The world building is top-notch. You see how humanity has rebuilt society in these tiny station cities, trading high-grade bullets as actual currency. It's a brilliant mechanic. Do you use your best ammo to kill that mutant charging at you, or do you save it to buy a better gun later?
The game doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. It relies on the sound of something skittering in a vent and the realization that your mask is about to crack. It's gritty, it's dark, and it's incredibly immersive. Every time I go back to it, I'm reminded that you don't need a massive open world to tell a powerful story. Sometimes a dark tunnel and a flickering light are all you need to be completely hooked. Number 10. Far Cry 3. Man, Far Cry 3 is the game that basically defined the modern open-world shooter. Before this, maps felt kind of empty, but Rook Island, it felt alive and dangerous. Stepping into the shoes of Jason Brody, you really feel that transition from a scared tourist to a jungle warrior. The gameplay loop of scouting an outpost with your binoculars, tagging enemies, and then deciding whether to go in with a suppressed sniper or just release a caged tiger to do the work for you is still perfection. It's a sandbox in the truest sense of the word. And we have to talk about the villain, Voss. Even without spoiling his role in the story, his performance is legendary. He's unpredictable, terrifying, and makes every encounter feel like you're walking on eggshells. The island itself is a character too. Lush, vibrant, but full of predators that will jump out of the grass when you least expect it. I've spent hours just hunting to craft better gear, or hang gliding off cliffs just to see the view. It's a game that encourages you to be creative with your chaos. It's fast-paced, stylish, and has a sense of wildness that the later games in the series have struggled to replicate. It's the ultimate insanity trip that stays addictive no matter how many times you've cleared those outposts. Number 11. LA Noire. Now let's slow things down with something completely unique. LA Noire. This game is a dream come true for anyone who loves detective movies and noir aesthetics. Set in 1947 Los Angeles, the city is reconstructed with such incredible detail that you feel like you've stepped back in time. But the real star here is the motion scan technology. Even in 2026, the facial animations during interrogations are mind-blowing. You actually have to watch the suspects, see if they twitch, if they look away, or if they seem too confident, to decide if they're lying or telling the truth. It makes the combat of the mind just as intense as a shootout. The gameplay is a mix of searching crime scenes for tiny clues, high-speed car chases through classic LA streets, and those tense interrogations. It's a slower-paced game that rewards patience and observation. I love the blue-collar feel of the cases. You start in traffic and work your way up through homicide and vice. Each case feels like a standalone episode of a high-end TV drama. The music, the fashion, the cynical dialogue, it all pulls you into this world of corruption and glamour. It's a rare type of game that treats the player like a grown-up, asking you to piece together the puzzle yourself. It's a masterpiece of style and substance that hasn't been matched since. Number 12. Red Dead Redemption. Closing out this group is the original Red Dead Redemption. I know this sequel is a technical marvel, but there is a specific Western soul in this first game that is just unbeatable. Playing as John Marston, a man just trying to get his family back, feels so grounded and personal. The landscape of the American frontier and Mexico is stunning, especially with that iconic soundtrack that kicks in at just the right moments. The Deadeye mechanic, slowing down time to line up 6 headshots in a row, is still one of the most satisfying things in any game ever made. What I love about this game is the pacing. You can spend an hour just playing poker in a dusty saloon, or you can find yourself in the middle of a massive revolution across the border. The random encounters on the road, saving someone from a hanging or getting ambushed by outlaws, make the world feel unpredictable and alive. It captures that feeling of the end of the Wild West perfectly. You can see the world changing around John, and you feel that weight in every mission. It's a gritty, beautiful, and lonely journey that stays with you long after the credits roll. If you want to know why the world fell in love with this franchise, this is the place to start. It's legendary for a reason. Number 13. Alan Wake. If you're a fan of Twin Peaks or Stephen King, Alan Wake is basically a playable dream. I remember the first time I stepped into Bright Falls. It felt so cozy and yet so deeply wrong. This isn't just a horror game, it's an action thriller that uses light as its primary mechanic. Having to burn away the darkness from the Taken with your flashlight before you can even damage them is such a brilliant, stressful loop. I've had so many moments where I was frantically clicking my mouse, trying to find a fresh set of batteries while a shadow-possessed lumberjack was swinging an axe at my head. It's that desperate scramble for safety that makes it so addictive. The game is structured like a TV miniseries, complete with previously on Alan Wake segments, which makes it perfect for those just one more episode sessions. The way the story explores the mind of a writer struggling with his own creation is so meta and clever. I love the environmental storytelling too. Finding manuscript pages that predict exactly what's about to happen to you is such a creepy, genius touch. The forest at night feels genuinely alive and menacing, with the wind howling through the trees and the shadows playing tricks on your eyes. It's an atmospheric masterpiece that focuses on psychological tension rather than just gore. It's moody, it's stylish, and it's a story that keeps you guessing until the very last frame. Number 14 is Dishonored, a game that is a masterclass in emergent gameplay. What I mean by that is the game gives you a set of tools and a target and then says, figure it out. Playing as Corvo Attano in the plague-ridden city of Dunwall is a playground for creativity. You can be a ghost, finishing the entire game without killing a single person or even being seen. Or you can be a whirlwind of steel and supernatural powers, leaving a trail of bodies behind you. The blink teleportation move is quite possibly the best traversal mechanic ever put into a first-person game. It makes moving through the rooftops feel incredibly fluid and empowering. The world building here is just chef's kiss. The whale punk aesthetic, where everything is powered by whale oil, is so unique and gritty. I love how the chaos system works too. If you play violently, the world actually becomes darker, with more rats and more sick people appearing in the streets. It makes your choices feel like they have actual weight beyond just a dialogue tree. Each mission is a huge, open-ended level that you can tackle from a dozen different angles. Maybe you possess a fish to swim through a drain pipe, or maybe you stop time and move out of the way of a bullet. It's a game that respects your intelligence and encourages you to break its systems in the most fun ways possible. It's infinitely replayable because you're always thinking, what if I tried it this way next time? Number 15, Alien Isolation. Finally, we're closing out with what I consider to be the greatest survival horror game ever made, Alien Isolation. Most Alien games make you a colonial marine shooting hundreds of xenomorphs, but this game remembers what made the original 1979 movie so scary. There is only one alien, and it is hunting you. The AI for the xenomorph is legendary. It doesn't follow a set path, it's actually learning your habits. If you hide in lockers too much, it'll start checking them. If you use flares to distract it, it'll eventually stop falling for it. It's a terrifying game of cat and mouse that keeps your heart rate at a steady 100 BPM. The art direction is a perfect lo-fi sci-fi recreation of the original film. Everything looks like it's from the late 70s. The chunky monitors, the flickering lights, and the iconic beep of the motion tracker. That motion tracker is your best friend and your worst enemy because the sound it makes can actually alert the alien to your position. It's a game of silence, of hiding under desks, and of pure, unadulterated dread. The working Joe androids add a whole other layer of creepiness to the Sebastopol station too. It's a long game for a horror title, but the pacing is so tight that the tension never truly lets up. If you want a single-player experience that will truly test your nerves and keep you on the edge of your seat in 2026, this is the definitive choice. And that's our list, guys. 15 legendary single-player experiences that haven't lost a single bit of their magic. In a world of endless multiplayer grinds, these games remind us why we fell in love with gaming in the first place. For the stories, the atmosphere, and that feeling of being totally lost in another world. But I want to know what you think. Which of these legends are you planning to dive back into this year? Or is there a single-player masterpiece I completely missed that you're still addicted to? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. I'm always looking for a reason to restart a great campaign.